No music this morning. I'll tell you why in a minute. I hope everybody is there. I'll give you a briefing on what's going on here in just a second. Maybe you can let me know, as usual, if the sound is okay. That's what I'm mostly concerned about. Just tell me good, everything's fine, yeah, we can hear you. There's not a, the modulation isn't so bad that it sounds like it's scratching at you. That's kind of what I need to know. Okay, everything looks good. Okay, the picture, of course, is probably going to go back in and out as I'm having extensive computer and internet problems this morning. And I don't think it's by accident. More on that in a minute. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the 13th of February, 2018. I almost said 1918. There might be some truth to that. The way things have been going, it wouldn't surprise me a bit. I've got an interesting program today, but a lot of you are going to say, not again, Roy. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Why are you beating this dead horse? Because every time I try to get away from it, it comes back around and hits me from the side in a situation that I have to address. And it's getting aggravating, but I'll try to break it down as best I can. Our guest should be on at 8 o'clock Mountain Time. That's in a little less than a half an hour, if I don't continue to have these computer problems. I've been locked out. I've had to go around. Wouldn't load. It's been crazy. Okay? And considering the subject matter today, it doesn't surprise me at all. I called this video Skullduggery, and man, it fits. It fits. I spent last night doing a lot of research. A lot of things were coming in. Of course, I was on Twitter quite a bit, talking about my personal history and some other things. I don't know how many of you have watched that. And it was probably about time. I've obviously, I've been a public figure since the 1980s, and what the heck. But I didn't want to get off of, and many people say this, Roy, don't let people get you off, topic, off your research. Don't worry, we accept you as you are. It's no big deal, all that. But at some point, it's a good idea to address it. And I have to some extent in the past, but yesterday it was pretty good. We got a lot of stuff out. And like I said, one of these days I promise to do a basically what would be a biography, an autobiography on the internet, with a video. So at any rate, between that and this other information that was coming in like crazy last night, I'm a little behind the 8 ball this morning. But maybe that's a good thing. Slow me down once in a while. Okay, what's going on? I called this video Skullduggery because it's everywhere, and I've said that a lot. Deceit, machinations of various types, they're all just going crazy. Everybody's struggling to find a place in the new order. Everybody's struggling to have an influence, an impact, and it's the good and the bad side. And frankly, which is which, I'm losing my assurances at this point. When you get into intelligence operations, sometimes, no matter whose side you're on, if you think you're on the good side or the bad, sometimes after you've employed all of your techniques, all of your understandings, all of your principles, you end up flying by the seat of your pants. And you have to call it the best you can with the information you've got and with the terrain that you're working with. And the terrain that you're working with are people. Rather than ground, it's people. Rather than than securing objectives. You're trying to win over hearts and minds. Well, I'm not trying to win over hearts and minds. I'm trying to get you to wake up and at least see the landscape that's in front of you so that you can make an intelligent, informed decision. Again, I'm going to say that, intelligent, informed decision. That doesn't mean that you'll be absolutely 100% positive, especially in this realm. You have to go by your heart. Eventually, when you go by the seat of your pants, you got to go by your heart. So in the last day or so, a lot of things have been happening with this entire deal with Q. One of the people that got lost, the person or the call sign, the handle that a lot of people have been watching for a long time was B, and she just basically disappeared. We'll have some more information on that later. I don't want to get into that now. A lot of information. But in this struggle, you get to the point where you really don't know who your friends are. You really don't know who is standing up for absolute principle. And that can get scary. Because if people aren't acting on principle, then that means you can't trust them. And a lot of that's going on right now. In this realm that I'm working in, and I know most of you know this, but I'm trying to lay some groundwork for what's coming. To let you know that I didn't do this for fun. This is extremely difficult terrain to navigate in the present situation. Most of the people I deal with, of course, are online. Not all of them, but most of them. I've never met them face to face. In many situations, I've never even talked to them on the phone. I've never even heard their voice. People that presented themselves as for the Constitutional Republic, who wanted to help, who wanted to befriend me, I find out today, with some circumstances that came up, that, and these are people I've actually dealt with for a long time. I'm not talking about Monty or Tracy Beans or Scott Anthony. Okay, it's another group of people. But I still thought with what was happening there, the trading of information, that, you know, and I did. I still feel like I could use some of the information that they're sending me. But this morning I received some information from a faceless organization I've never met, but they've sent me information before, and they basically warned me about something that they could not have known about unless my phone had been tapped. You know, oh, they don't tap phones anymore. They don't wiretap anymore. Okay, well, it's just a generic way of explaining that they're surveilling you, right? Or somebody is. And that didn't surprise me. The entire situation that happened on Twitter yesterday, and I'm not going to name names here right now, it's coming later, you know, attacking my character and my, you know, I've never said I was a sterling officer in the Army. As a matter of fact, I've discussed myself as being quite lackluster. But I did what I said I did. And I'll stick by that, and too bad. You know, if people don't like that, that's just tough luck. But at any rate, so there are situations right now where I'm being approached by individuals and by what appear to be organizations that are saying and doing things that under normal circumstances they shouldn't be doing. And it's a minefield. Again, if anybody thinks I'm doing this for fun, they're wrong. I'm doing it because I wanted to contribute, pay back to the people of this republic and to the world for the horrible things that I supported while I was employed on and off over 28 years, serving a deceitful and wicked, no, not wicked, evil government. And it's the people that control it. Our Constitution is great. Our Bill of Rights is great. Declaration of Independence, the concept of our government is great. But it has been stolen from us, and that's something that no one should question at this point. What we should question is, who can we really believe? Who can we really trust? And as of right now, I don't know. And I'm just being honest with you. Let me check the sound and the picture again. I'm getting some signals here that I'm losing some contact. Is everybody still hearing this? I have to beat around the bush. You don't understand, okay? I'm trying to lay out the battle space. If you don't want to be here and listen, please just go. You're talking about something now that's serious. I am going to beat around the bush until it's time for me not to. Okay? We've got 20 more minutes before my guest comes on, if he can make the call. All right? So you're just going to have to understand that I'm warning you that things are not as they appear. Do you understand? This is a really, really, really serious time. Things are breaking about the deep state, about the FBI, about the CIA, about the DOJ, and a lot more. People are being murdered around the globe. I mean, Q couldn't even get it right over who the person was that was supposedly killed in that Russian plane, the target. Or it was a deliberate distraction. We'll get to that. I'm trying to explain to you that I don't even want to do this. But I got to stick it out because I committed to it. Because it's so complicated now, and it's so full of deceit and diversion. I mean, it's not like having a compass and a map and being able to do land navigation even in the dark. It's worse than that. So at any rate, we have a situation that I've warned about at least, well, I started warning about it, many years ago about this war in the government. And at least then I could kind of delineate the good hats from the bad hats, the black hats from the white hats, those things. I could delineate that, but now it's gotten way more difficult. Because in war, what is the first casualty of war? What is the first casualty of war? Can anybody tell me? Well, I'll just say it. It's truth. The first casualty of war is truth. And it doesn't matter who you think the white hats are or the black hats. They both play the same game. I, for one, never have. I've basically avoided that my entire career, unless, of course, we're getting shot at, that kind of thing. Then that's a whole different ball game. But then again, these things that are going now, that are attacking a lot of people, are a new type of weapon, a new type of bullet. And so, even though you don't want to, you have to approach it from that point of view. Okay? So what do we got going on today? Let me give you a little heads up. We still got about 20 minutes here, and I'll take a few questions. I'm deliberately putting you off. I had to come on at 7:30 Mountain Time because I had a feeling that I was going to have a lot of technical difficulties this morning, and I was absolutely 100% correct. Okay? So I wanted to make sure I had this. I thought if I couldn't get my computer up and running, and it might still check out, I was going to have to get on my phone and make just a real short message that I have to cancel the show today because of the amount of problems I'm experiencing here. And it all revolves around what we think is somebody trying to help us understand the truth of what's happening in our country and in the world. So we'll get to that point. Let me see if there's anything here that I can answer for you right now. I see somebody here say, do not trust AJ. Well, I've never trusted him 100%. But I'm saying you really, unfortunately, both sides in this conflict have done a great job in destroying trust. A great job. And one of the first ways you can tell who's doing it is if they attack your character, your personality, and they don't talk information. If they get off the road talking about, oh, you're a bad person because you don't go to church, or you're a bad person because, whatever, that they can twist anything and make it look bad. And this is happening on both sides now. Okay? And when I see that, I try to refrain from it because it doesn't accomplish anything but just make that division worse. That doesn't mean that you can't defend yourself, but it's really hard to defend yourself on digits, okay, without a lot of explanation. And nobody expects anybody to trust anybody else. I don't expect it, but I think you need to look at the fruits over a long period of time, not a short period of time. Okay, that's extremely important. And that's one reason why I'm very concerned about what I'm seeing today. Somebody's asking about Attorney General Jeff Sessions. I have now dropped off of the Sessions train completely. I don't believe he's anything but a deep state plant. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care if that upsets anybody. I don't care if they think, well, Mueller is actually in there and he's working for Trump, and, all this is just a setup of the Democrats. No. Some very, very good people who have done a lot of research have gone down that road. No, I don't believe that anymore. And I have a lot of reasons not to. You can use all the logic you think explaining the circumstances. Mueller coming in the day before with Trump and being asked to be part of the FBI, and the next day he gets, appointed as the special counsel, and all these things. There's all these innuendos and people trying to make something out of something that doesn't exist. It's deceit, and it's right now in a really bad space. And so, yeah, here in about another 20 minutes, we're going to delve, or looks like about 15 minutes, we'll delve into that. Okay. Yeah, you can't be on both sides. There's only one side, and that is the side of God. And that's really where we got to go now, ladies and gentlemen. You see accusers of the brethren out there, you better run away from them. You better put up the hand, and you better run away from them. They're the ones you really got to watch out for, because their emotional attacks will suck you in, because it's something that we like. You remember the gossip in junior high school? You remember all of that? Okay? If you want to get sucked into that, you're going down the tubes. Okay? You got to keep your brains intact, and you got to keep your heart intact, and you got to connect the two. You can't be out of balance. So yeah, we're going to need God. And this is coming up real fast. Somebody says, kick the dust off your feet. I've done that on a number of occasions. And if things don't turn around here in the next few days, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that ordinance again. It's called a ritual or ordinance. Kick the dust off your feet and wash your feet. People who've known me for a long time know that I've done that ordinance, that ritual, several times. And I'm really close to doing it on this whole thing all again, because I don't trust anybody at this point. I don't care who they are. Okay. Yeah. BP Earthwatch was satanically attacked the last few days. Being the example on this YouTube thing of, something that comes up on the roll or whatever they call it that shouldn't, they are manipulating the information, and it's just getting worse. Why isn't anybody stopping this? Why hasn't anybody actually gone after Google and after YouTube and after Twitter? They haven't. Not even filings. Not even that. Not even warning them, hey, we're coming for you. Nothing. You don't think the information, that the evidence isn't out there? It sure is. But it's not happening, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing's happening underneath. Okay? If you're not from Missouri, you better think about moving there. Do you know what I'm talking about? The show me state, prove it. I want to see it. I want to hear it with my own eyes and ears. I want to see something. Better move to Missouri. Because all this other stuff means absolutely nothing at this point. Words are words. And that's all we're seeing. Oh, yeah. Rural Wyoming, come speak. Where are you in rural Wyoming? You know, I've got, you know, that's my neighborhood, really, right? I'll come and speak to anybody, you know, and I don't charge. You know, I'm not out this for money. I look on it as a responsibility, basically a mission. And it might be that might be a better way to go and get down on the ground with local people and discuss this. And I've done that before. But it's getting critical now where, I mean, this is just outrageous. Some things are going to come out today that are going to blow your mind, absolutely blow your mind, if you can connect the dots. And I'm going to help you try to connect the dots. But a lot of you don't do it. You don't, because it goes against, you know, your prejudices, your biases. You're hoping so much in a thing that you can't let go. It's like, you know, it really is like a religion. It's and maybe that's why I'm being able to see this, because I've fought against dogma my entire life, the commandments of men, the expectations that I bow to men's wishes. I've never done that. Oh, I might start down that road trying to be a good little boy, but in the end, my eyes get open every single time, even in this effort I'm trying to make now. And I have to call it as I see it. And that's what we're going to do today once this thing gets rolling. Okay. Looks like Scott Anthony is here. Scott, hello. I appreciate you being here. I can't really watch the chat. I'm watching some other things for very good reason. If you got my messages last night, you understand what I'm talking about today. And, you know, who's a bullshitter? That's what I mean. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about there. You know, it used to be I thought all the things in the chat were directed at me, and then I started realizing people are talking to each other on there. I'm a baby boomer, you know, I'm not a techie guy. So, you know, I had to get that. Let me see if I can see anybody. Apparently Scott is here. Let me see if he's asking me a question. I don't know if he is, but let's see if he is. Okay, now, oh, Scott, I got your messages. Good. Okay, Scott just told me he's got my messages. He knows how serious this situation is, and we're going to do everything we can to put up an effort to stop it. And this really isn't the game. So we're in a very precarious situation right now. A lot of us have been taken down the wrong road. That's a fact. We really have. It's interesting, you know, I've often said, and I've talked about this for years, the devil will tell you 99 lies to give you 99 truths, 99 things that are true to get that one slick lie in there. And then I hear the people that actually are doing the lying playing that same game and saying the same thing. But man, I've been saying it a long time. That's been my mantra for a long time. Principles, not personalities. So, okay, choose few sites for so less stress and BS. Well, I appreciate that. But I can't. I can't. You all can, but with what I do, I can't. I have to be like the NSA and scoop up as much metadata as I can and then make decisions based on that. If I'm going to take this seriously, which I have. Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees. Boy, isn't that truth. Very much so. Let me just see if there's anybody else on here that I should address. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about what's coming up then. Okay, I'm going to get off the chat here right now. One of these days I'll get a moderator that can, you know, take calls and then give me the ones that the moderator thinks are reasonable. I'm just not set up for that right now. It all has to be done in the chat room. Okay. He should be calling in at any time now. He might be watching the transmission, so My fine guest, if you want to call in now, please feel free to. I've got my handy phone. The way this will work is when you call, I'll answer it, and then I'm going to up the volume on the mic and try to lower my voice so I don't blast people out, but give you the floor. This individual is not going to give his real name, and but those of you who have been at this over the last 4 months, 5 months, should know who he is. He's been on some other programs, and it's been necessary to hear what he has to say. A lot of you, I saw this comment on Twitter last night, and it's very true. A lot of you have only been at this since Donald Trump got into office or shortly before, maybe during the campaign, at most a couple of years. And yet a lot of you also have only been at this since the Q thing broke back in November. And so, you're sitting there and you're saying, you got to give these things time, you got to do this, and etc. Here's the call coming in, so let me make sure we've got a connection. Hi, sir. How you doing? I'm doing okay. This is serious stuff, isn't it? Very much so. And it got. I don't know if you're aware of what's going on right now, but it's gotten more serious in the last, I'd say the last 12 to 18 hours. So what I'm going to do here, can I call you by the name that's on your call sign here? Is that the one you want me to use? Okay, good. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a little introduction here, and and then I think what we're going to do is just have you basically give the information about how about like what we talked about yesterday, concentrating as much on the technical without blowing us all out of the water, because I'm certainly a baby boomer. I don't know, how I am with tech, but kind of giving us a rundown of how you got involved, what occurred, and the technical aspects of this, where you're able to recognize the people who say they're a particular group of people, if you know what I'm saying here. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to put the phone just down a little bit here. This gentleman is known as Baruch the Scribe. He was the owner of the 4chan Calm Before the Storm board. He is the one that first started to interact with the Q team. He knew the Q team when it first came in. He became very intimately involved in their method of doing things, their identifications, and all of that. And as most of you know, I was very much for the Q thing up until, I say around Thanksgiving, but I could extend it to about the first of the year, which Baruch does. This is a gentleman with extremely high technical abilities. If he's not intelligence in the electronic field, I would be very surprised. But he doesn't say that. He just says that he's very, very, very well educated in it. So without any further ado, I want to just basically hand the time over to him, and I'm going to increase the mic strength here. And Baruch, you can, as soon as I get this mic up, feel free to start talking, and you just take it, and we'll go from there. I'm going to watch the chat room, and if the people would again let me know that they can hear you clearly, loud and clear. That's the only thing I'm worried about. So here we go. Let me introduce to you Baruch, the owner of the 4chan Calm Before the Storm board. Thanks for coming on, sir.
Thank you, Roy. Thank you to everyone watching. Great to talk to you guys. Please feel free to ask me questions in the chat. I am quite delayed here because I also have got a pretty bad connection like Roy, but I'm pretty sure I'll see them. Yeah, I got into the Q thing in early November, probably the first week. I would say the first few days of November, and then I went back and I noticed the I went back and I noticed the 27th and the 29th posts for Q as well. So I've been here from the very, very beginning.
May I interrupt you for just a second, Baruch? May I got it. You're getting accused of something here already. I want you to understand here, people. Okay, this gentleman has a Hebrew name. That's Baruch. It's not Arabic. Do you understand? Okay. Don't be getting down that road. That's not where we want to go. All right. Pay attention to what he's saying. You know, please. Okay. I just had to do that. Some of these people just jump to conclusions. Baruch, here we go.
Okay. Let me explain my name. It's Baruch the scribe, the faithful scribe of Jeremiah. So I just thought it would be fun because, yeah, like Roy said earlier, he's not doing this for fun, and I'm not doing this for fun either. I'm doing it because I'm compelled to do the right thing, and because I want to do the right thing. So, yeah, I want to be the faithful scribe of these events. And as I was saying just now, I got into it very early, probably November the 1st or October the 31st. And I started following it on 4chan. More and more, the more that Q dropped information, and the more he started confirming himself with the most spectacular proofs, the more I was impressed. And then about midway through November, I was getting kind of worried about what was happening on 4chan. We were getting flooded. We were getting shilled. The board, you know, the EBCS general, the calm before the storm general threads on polls were getting slid like crazy. It was very frustrating because there were a lot of like, if you wanted to post, you had to fill in about 8 different captures, and it was getting kind of hard to follow everything. And so I just thought, you know, I'm a kind of a cautious, paranoid sort of person. So I went over to 8chan, and I thought, you know, if I just start a board here just as a backup, then we'll have a backup. Well, if 4chan eventually gets shut down, you know, if we get banned or whatever, then people can just go to 8chan and we can carry on from there. And we'd have complete control. So I think it was the 18th of November. I went over, I founded the board, and I posted some rules and a couple of threads for memes and whatever, and then I forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, about 10 days later, I think it was the end of November or whatever, or the beginning of December, I woke up and suddenly the board was full. And I went on 4chan and I saw that everyone had moved. So that was the beginning of my full-time, and I mean full-time involvement in the the Q thing. Q then appeared a couple of days later on 8chan poll, and he had the same trip code that he had on 4chan, so we knew it was him. And then he started posting on CBTS, which was great. It was very exciting. It was very scary. The information that he was giving was terrifying. It was really bad. And then there were problems. There were problems with the managing the board. It's very difficult to manage online communities. I've been in online communities for far too long, so probably 25 years, starting with Internet Relay Chat, IRC. So I've seen everything, heard everything, and experienced everything when it comes to community problems. So we had a bit of a crisis middle of December where, we had threads going missing, we had people fighting, and then we had somebody posting that they were close to cracking Q's crypt code. So I locked him out of the port for a day and a half, so to force him to change it, and he did. And then he came back and he carried on with the information drops. But they were, I mean, as we led up to Christmas, they were very impressive. It was very impressive stuff. He started talking about. He talked a lot about North Korea. He spoke a lot about. He dropped a directory listing which showed the timeline of Seth Rich's murder. He spoke about SpaceX, that it was SpaceX. He was hinting that SpaceX had stolen technology from NASA, effectively, that Obama had given NASA technology to SpaceX, and that North Korea's missile guidance was given to, was given to SpaceX. I mean, that was staggering stuff. I mean, I'd heard some pretty bad things from Q up till then, but to hear that was just unbelievable. Anyway, so Q, wished us all a happy Christmas with the picture of Washington crossing the Delaware. We had a whole lot of things going down, like Atlanta, the RTL Jackson being shut down for 10 hours. We had rumors about Julian Assange. And then in the new year, he popped up again on the 1st, I think, and the 4th, to just clarify a couple of things about the spat between Bannon and Trump, which was obviously just, a play. And then on the 5th of January, something strange happened, something very strange.
Yeah, I want people to listen to this. If you can speak up just a little louder, Brooke. We're having a few problems with the modulation, but everybody pay attention to strain your ears if you need to. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, no problem. On the 5th of January, Q popped up, and he didn't sound like Q at all. If you know the website which has collected all of Q's posts, it has very strange things in it. It says, a covert op by class to infiltrate at highest level to destroy from within. That makes no sense at all. That's not Q. That's somebody speaking who thinks he knows like Q. I actually went on to the Discord channel with the other moderators and Jerome Corsi. Dr. Corsi was there with us. I actually have a recording of that conversation in case he doesn't remember. And we decided this wasn't Q. This was someone who was, someone who had got his password and was pretending to be him. And then I deleted those posts. There were 5 of them, I think. 5 of them from this guy claiming to be Q who wasn't really. But before I deleted them, I just saved the logs of the IP address. If you moderate a board on 8chan, you do get some tools to see what's going on at the back. Now, you can't see people's IP address directly, but you can see a unique hash. You can see it's basically it's a mangled version of an IP address, but it is unique. So, but it's one way. So I can't get from the mangled version of the address back to the IP. That's just to protect everyone's privacy. So I saved these and I looked at them later, and they weren't Q's IP address.
Say that again, Brooke. I want everybody to hear that. I want everybody to understand that. Would you please say that again about the IP address?
On January the 5th, Q posted from an IP address that he had never used before. He never used that before. Okay? Now, I have all of the mod logs of Q's original posts on my board from when he first came. And this was not one that he'd ever used before. So I called out this guy and I said, sorry, this is not Q. And this is not the IP address. This is not, you've cracked the password. And he said, this board is compromised, as of course he would say if he was doing this exercise. But the thing is, I wasn't lying. I actually posted the logs, and I proved that it could not have been Q. And I posted some real Q logs, and you can see that Q has always said that he's used multiple devices for security reasons. But Q did not use This did not use any of the previous devices that were known good. So, yeah, that was the problem. Then the new queue says, no, we need to move to the storm board. And that lasted only about 2 or 3 days. And then he said something like, no, we didn't like what we're seeing. Let's get a new board called Great Awakening, where I would have complete control. And then Q Research will be the board where we can discuss things. And 95% of the people who are on 8chan CBTS moved over. I don't really blame them, because the 8chan administrator didn't help. He changed the code, he changed the software to generate trip code right in the middle of all this. So first of all, I posted with my trip code and it changed. And everyone said, oh no, you're not the board owner. So I spent the whole of that Saturday trying to convince people that I really was the board owner. And secondly, he checked the IP address and said, I've checked 3 times this queue, which is absolute nonsense, because it couldn't have been. So the 8chan admin really did a number on us and helped this impersonator queue when he moved. So pretty much everyone moved to, they moved to 8chan Q Research, the Q Research board, and then Q started posting on Great Awakening. But straight away there were strange things. I mean, he deleted posts 2 and 3. If you look on Great Awakening and you go to the top, you'll see the post number goes 1, 4, 5. What did he delete? Why did he delete it? Is this really Q? I knew it wasn't, because the style was wrong and the IP address was wrong. Now, I have a digital forensics background, so I used to get paid extremely well for detecting when people were lying using electronics, and I won't. And I've had very expensive attorneys screaming in my face that I'm not telling the truth. But the fact is, logs do not lie. And the logs that I had don't lie either. So now we had a situation where we had a queue that I knew was not real on his own board. And sure enough, he started posting the most concerned rubbish I've ever seen. Where do I start? Well, I won't go through the whole story, but let's. We can take some examples from recently. For instance, Q mentioned Black Forest. Now, and then a week later, the news came out that the Rothschilds were selling their estate. Everyone thought, wow, that's really impressive. Yeah, no, it wasn't. Because the Black Forest is about 700 miles away from the Rothschild estate in another country. Black Forest is in southwest Germany. The Rothschild estate is in northeast Austria, and they are very far apart. And it wasn't a prediction, because that was on the Austrian news before Q posted it. So, yeah, that wasn't very impressive. Then there were the Chinese photographs, which were supposed to show us that somebody was being, there was a top secret meeting that somebody was being arrested. Now, all-seeing eye watcher, ASEW News, I'm sure a lot of them, a lot of your readers have watched ASEW. He picked this up straight away. And he said, hang on, this is just an open window in a building. And here are a whole lot of other open windows in a building. So I don't get the significance. And then there were, then there was some guy walking in a car park. And this was supposed to be a VIP coming to a secret meeting. Yeah, I didn't buy that at all. I thought that was a lot of rubbish as well. He's got it wrong on China. As you mentioned earlier, Roy, he got it wrong about the plane, about the person on the plane. He's got it wrong on China. He's got it wrong on the Rothschilds. The original Q was pretty incredible when it came to predicting the future. He also had purpose. He had a methodology that we followed. Just the density of information that he gave us in his drops up until January the 5th was amazing. I'm still decoding some of that stuff. It's taking me absolutely ages. And it's going to take me even more time, because everything has meaning. This current Q is not the same Q as before. That's what I'll say for sure. the thing is, this current Q is getting real intelligence from somewhere.
This is very important. I want everybody to hear that again, Baruch. What he's saying is, I'm just going to make sure this gets there, and I know I'm blasting the mic out. This present Q is being handled by intelligence handler operatives and giving actual intelligence. But the techniques, the language, the methods that then they use in posting these things shows that they're not the original Q. Okay, I'm sorry, Baruch, go ahead.
Yeah, that's absolutely the right summary there. This is not, I mean, it's obvious to anyone with a pulse that this is not the same Q. I mean, just from style point of view, this is not the same Q as before. This is not, I mean, Q, we figured out was probably a team. Okay, a team up until January the 5th. A team right next to the president, very much so. I mean, the president was cutting and pasting Q's statements into his Twitter. He did that dozens of times. That's how he knew that. Then he even actually, at one point, I think it was, when was it, December the 22nd, I can't remember offhand, but it was middle to late December, Q actually pasted something that an anon said on 8chan into it. The president tweeted and included something that an anon said on 8chan into his Twitter, which told us that the president was watching the 8chan board. So, yeah, look, it doesn't really matter whether Q was an individual Q clearance or whether he was a team. And I think it doesn't really matter today that Q is an individual or a team. However, it is not the same team. It is not the same individual. The technical logs show that, and the style shows that, apart from anything else. But the current Q has predicted the future, and he's got, I mean, DEFCON, Roy, I know that you and I freaked out when we saw that, because that was just a ridiculous thing to say to anyone who remembers what it was like during the Cold War. You don't say things like that. Right. However, on the 12th of January, then we had a real nuclear attack against Hawaii. Now, I'm convinced that was a real nuke. There's
Absolutely.
Two things that line up. Bill and Hillary sitting in the Maui so they could watch the mushroom cloud. A CBS news crew inside the bunker that gave the original alarm. There's eyewitness testimony on YouTube of tourist boats seeing a missile shot out of the sky. So that was a real nuclear attack. So I think Q knew about that, and he was given that either by his handlers, and his handlers are real intel. They they were probably the ones that cracked Q's password.
They're probably also the ones that fired them, and Baruch, they probably knew of the missile attack because they're the ones that were going to do it.
Well, no, paradoxically enough, I think the current Q team is actually on our side. Well, in a manner of speaking, they are on the side of good. In other words, this is an NSA team or a good CIA team or someone who actually wants to continue the mission. And otherwise they'd be telling us a whole lot of nonsense. However, it is a distraction. You can tell it's not the same Q, and it is. You can tell they don't have the access to the president. I mean, during that whole, remember the President's Fake News Awards on January the 17th, I believe it was. Q said, POTUS may tweet one of your memes. And I was thinking, may? Really? Don't you know? Dude, you're supposed to be standing right next to President Donald Trump. I mean, are you really who you say you are? But then there's predictions like John Perry Barlow. This was the founder of the Electronic Freedom Foundation who died very recently. Q mentioned his name 10 days before he died. That was pretty impressive. But that can be explained by the fact that there is somebody with real intelligence feeding these guys real intel every so often. Not a lot. Most of the time it's just Q spouting a whole lot of absolute nonsense. I mean, none of the stringers are military stringers at all. I don't know why Dr. Corsi can't see this, because he's been decoding stringers for breakfast since 1972. I don't know why he can't. You don't just put arbitrary words in square brackets. That's just silly. But however, yeah, real Q has made a couple of spectacular predictions, and it's kept everyone interested. And but the rest of the time, he's talking rubbish, and that's the problem. Because, as you said, Roy, and when you first started your show, things are ramping up. There are all sorts of things going on behind the scenes, and we don't have a guide to them now. Before, I mean, a lot of things happened in the last 2 months of last year, but we had the guide to tell us. We had Q there. One of his most brilliant examples was saying, he said in the first week of November, November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, he said, look, there's going to be arrests, there's going to be riots, there's going to be National Guard, and there's going to be a huge crackdown. And he was absolutely right. It happened the next day in Saudi Arabia. And then he popped up and said, disinformation is necessary. Sorry, we have to do Saudi first. So we had this conceptual framework that Q was giving us of what was going on. That these arrests in Saudi Arabia were very, very significant. They were the beginning moves in taking down the global elite. So we could understand all these bad things happening. Q now doesn't have a bloody clue what's going on in the world. He looks at the news and he tweets about it and he pretends that he knew it was coming. And it's just rubbish. It's just a couple of kids with his parts of it, basically.
Yeah, let me comment on that again. We're getting some comments in the chat, and I'll try not to yell here. I'll lower my voice because I have the volume up very high on the mic. There are people that are taking your words to say that these Q people are on our side, and I want to make sure that people understand that it's not the people that are actually running the information. It's who's giving them the information that's the question. Are they black hats or white hats? And then all of this added in about the fact that it's not the original Q, to filter that is what's causing the problem. Am I stating that relatively correctly, Baruch?
Yes, absolutely. So, so I think the story is that, because I've been needling these guys on my board, BTS. It's nice and quiet now because everyone's gone. So, I've been trolling these guys, trying to get a response out of them. And the one guy responded, and he said, he basically said, fuck mil-int, military intelligence. They, like the US Congress, are feckless, pissing in the wind. And I thought, okay, so this could be the truth. This could be some guy from a rogue NSA group or rogue intelligence group, and he's feeding intel to the team who are currently looking after Q's accounts.
Did we? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I thought we lost.
Yeah. You see, the problem is we don't know what happens to the original Q. He could still be around. I've seen a theory that linked a story on January the 5th, which showed that a number of individuals were removed from the executive office of the presidency. Now, that is probably where the original Q was sitting, in the EOP. Now, if they've been removed by whatever, I can't remember what the story was, it was Admiral Rogers was ordered to remove these people, then Q no longer has access. And that's why he can't pop up and say, this guy's a fake. So there are a number of, I think Q's still around and still working very hard. But he can never post on 8chan again. That's clear. The admins are either incompetent or treacherous, and there's no ways of him convincing us that it's really him anymore. So I did set up an alternative, but I don't think he's going to follow it. I don't think that would be wise. Yeah. Again, I do have to stress to everyone here, please don't take my word for this. Go check it out. If you go to 8chan/CBTS, all the sticky threads have all the proof and all the logs. If you can follow it, or if you can get someone to explain it to you, it is all in there. Please do not take my word as gospel. It is very important that you do convince yourself of the research. Do not, as Roy said earlier on in the show before I came on, do not trust anybody. Do not trust anything that you have not verified for yourself.
That's very good. Thank you, Baruch. That's true. I want to shift gears just a little bit here because I know that your call time is limited. I hate to go here. Hopefully, I'm not too loud saying this. Let me see if I can remember to lower my voice. And hopefully, you can still hear me. I'll bring this up so you can, and then I'll put the phone back down to the mic when you respond. We know that one of the concerns of Q, even as early as November, was that the boards, that you were noticing some infiltration, some possible attacks to find the trip code and other things. My first question is, what is the level of technical ability and access of people that would be trying to do that? If you could answer that in just a minute or two, then I've got another question that's going to take us down that road.
Yeah, it's a state level, intelligence agency level.
Okay.
It takes serious hardware to be able to reverse engineer a trip code into the password. Serious hardware.
Okay. The reason why I asked that, Baruch, is because there are people that I was approached by early this morning, and they must have known that we were going to do this. You and I talked about this yesterday, that they probably already knew we were going to go here. I was approached by people this morning, and no, it wasn't Monty. Okay, everybody wants to blame Monty for this stuff. It's another group that I have had some contact with, and they've gotten on my good side, and now I have to question what's going on here. They basically said that the people that compromised your situation with the real Q were a group of high-tech locals, regular people, maybe very, very technically proficient. But what you're saying is that it had to have been a state-level intrusion. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. Would you say that again?
Well, no, yeah, okay, no, not necessarily. I think the actual password cracking, the password cracking could have been done by a guy with access to a supercluster. But yeah, it's not trivial. You cannot just turn a checksum back into a password. I know the MD5, that is, those of you technical listening, it's an MD5 hash in PHP. I know because the 8chan source code is publicly available, and I went and I read that part of it that does the trip code thing. You do need serious hardware to do that, and whoever did it then gave it to this team, or one of the team did it. But so that is the mechanism by which they crack the password. That's one issue. The second issue is who is feeding them real intel. I think they are two separate things. So you have, so you have a team who received Q's cracked password and did the takeover, and then now they're running the Q account on Great Awakening, but they are being fed real intelligence by somebody with real intel. Yeah, I mean, let's get real. It's genuine stuff. It's just not a lot, but it's just enough to keep us all interested.
Why wouldn't Trump and the original Q warn us about this, Baruch? Have you got a little insight into that?
I have thought about this quite a bit. I believe that if Trump could right now pop up on his Twitter and say, Q is, the current Q is a load of rubbish. But think about what that would cause. It would cause most people to discount all of Q, which is bad. And the second thing is it might compromise ongoing operations. Q actually, you notice that the current Q doesn't post any orders to operators, whereas the previous, the real Q, posted stringers and instructions to people who were watching, and they were real orders.
Yeah, authentication codes. Yes, authentication codes and go orders, absolutely.
Yeah, the real orders to kidnap Jacob Rothschild, that was real. That was posted on the board. OWL, go, enough is enough. We even had a guy from the OWL post saying, got, message received, waiting in the dark. That was pretty awesome. There were real operators watching the board, and they were waiting for their instructions. Now, obviously, that can't happen now, but I think it's telling that the current Q, well, he doesn't know how stringers work, but he also isn't posting any orders to anyone that makes any sense. So I think the reason that the president can't do it now, I think he will eventually, but he cannot do it right now for various reasons, because there's all sorts of things going on at the moment. There's all sorts of things happening behind the scenes.
Okay, and I'd agree with that. Okay, let's shift gears one more time, sir. And I want to go back. You sent me some information yesterday on Gmail, and I covered it a little bit last night on Twitter. I don't know if you saw me doing that. And I hate to go here. I really, honest to God, I hate to go here. But we have to show that there are people that are making claims that they have done things for Q that they haven't done, number one, and also other things that they've attempted or accomplished. And if you could cover those two issues quickly for me that you sent me on the mail last night, I would be so grateful, and I think our listeners need to hear this. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Look, in July, DeFango, who's a well-known YouTuber, and he's done a lot of work with the Cicada 201 project, which is a crypto puzzle hosted by somebody, probably an intelligence agency, to recruit young, bright, technical guys. He's done a lot of work on Cicada. In July, he posted something on Pastebin that had some of Q's questions in it. Now, I checked this out, and yeah, the document was created in July, but it was edited later. Now, it cannot be genuine. DeFango could not have written the questions from Q, because it includes a question which asks why George Soros has transferred the bulk of his money into a non-profit. Yeah, that didn't happen till October, and I'm sorry, but DeFango has no idea that George Soros was going to transfer the bulk of his funds into a non-profit. So that document is a load of rubbish. Then on January the 3rd, DeFango has hinted that he had something to do with the Q phenomenon, but he doesn't. He actually popped onto a YouTube live stream on New Year's Day, January the 1st, and he claimed that he was part of a team that wrote the question. That he met these guys at DEF CON, the hacker conference in Vegas, and they discussed it, and it was going to be the next big thing after Cicada. It's all rubbish. He doesn't have anything to do with Q. I think he's just jumping on the bandwagon, but his cluelessness is pretty evident. That he went on when Q moved to 8chan at the end of November, beginning of December. He didn't even know that Q's strip code was correct. He's got a video up where he tells you that, no, this is fake, this is being compromised. So he didn't really have the technical knowledge about 8chan and the way trips work to see that it was a real Q. So my advice would be to safely ignore him, because he's been wrong about every single thing about Q, and he's got nothing to do with it. He certainly did not write the question. And he certainly wasn't part of the team. Q has posted photographs from Air Force One taken while flying over North Korea. Q has posted inside knowledge of the Vatican that the Pope is going to change the Lord's Prayer. Q has posted words and phrases that the president has used in his Twitter. He has provided dozens of proofs of his authenticity, and DeFango has provided none. So I think he can be safely ignored.
Okay, and I appreciate you going. Like I said, I hated to do that, but as you're aware, some things are happening now that I think people need to understand. That one of the problems is that several of us are being accused by a group of people associated with that gentleman of fighting against Q and President Trump. and having created the individual that was posting on Twitter by the handle of B. And if you don't mind, what would be your feelings about the fact that several of us are being attacked saying we don't support Q and Trump, linking that as one situation, and the fact that a couple of us created the B character and were actually B?
Yeah, is there any proof of that? Yeah, look, something funny is going on with B's account, that's for sure. I followed B from when she first started. And now I saw yesterday that a whole lot of her tweets have been deleted. And weird stuff is happening. B, I thought, was a white hat who was interested in Q material and was just retweeting and stuff and following along. But this is a separate issue. How can they prove that you guys created B? That's just a silly thing to say. There's no evidence. When I start accusing people of things, then I tend to bring out the evidence. The Tango is lying. Go and look at his pasting. The Tango is lying. Go and look at this video he made. He cannot be telling the truth. The Tango is lying. He's doing this. But to say that somebody random has created a Twitter account, where's the proof? No, you can ignore that. And I don't see how you can prove that you didn't. That's just silly.
Well, I appreciate you addressing that. I didn't want to go there. There are a lot of things that are occurring in that regard, and I'll handle those later. Look, I know we're taking up a lot of your time, but I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything in particular that you'd like to say in closing, or am I cutting you off too early? Why don't you let us know where you want to go from there?
Look. There's a question asked on the board on your chat here earlier, which is a good one, and people are saying, but we need to follow Q because he's red pilling a lot of people, and that is a very good point. Is that current Q has done an awful lot to red pill people. I can't deny that. They really have. The number of the QAnon hashtag on Twitter is several hundred a second, as far as I can see, which is great. And it is what the original Q wanted us to do, was to archive, understand, and red pill everyone. So from that point of view, I agree. But from another point of view, I would urge people to be cautious. This is not, at the very least, this is not the same Q as it was last year. Not the same Q as pre-January the 5th. So understand that you are going to get real intel, okay? But when it gives you puzzles and funny things in square brackets, then you can ignore that. But, look, in this game, you need to question everything and everybody. So, I mean, the original Q did urge us to do that and warned us that this information is necessary. Red pill as many people as you can on the Q drops, and that's from the beginning, so from October the 28th, whenever it was. And but the current Q is not the same team, so treat it with skepticism.
Yeah, one of the things that I've noticed after the first of the year, the supposed Q started making attacks on those who the Q thought were not playing the game. The most serious, of course, that I'd mentioned, now there have been actually 3 of these, but was the one that happened just a few days ago, where he basically said that those who question have no right to be part of the discussion. And there's been an argument of whether he was talking about the people on the board or the public as a whole. And my point is, it doesn't make any difference. I don't care if people on the research board are asking questions. That's what we need to do. So why would this Q have said that you can't ask questions, and if you do, you can't be part of the discussion? and this has to do with wanting arrests and things like that. What would be your feelings on why that Q would have said that? That's the first question. Then I've got another one right after that.
That's rubbish. The real Q treated us all like adults. Be the autists we know you are. He said, he was very encouraging. He called us all patriots. He gave us hints. He gave us more information. He helped us when we got stuck. This current Q doesn't seem to have that kind of attitude, which is bad. And I think that's one of the reasons why. I don't think it's real. I know it's not the real Q. A lot of people are asking whether I had private contact with Q. The answer is yes. I used to have a lot of private messages from Q. On the board, in plain sight. He would post as an anon. I've got proof of those. He posted several times. He used to post just as an anon, and he would reply direct to me, and sometimes he wouldn't even reply to me. He would just post a couple of things that I needed to get done, and of course nobody noticed that it was the real Q. But if I went back and double-checked that on the moderator logs, it was his IP address. So, yeah, it was one of his IP addresses that he'd used before. So, yeah, me and the mods, and I wasn't the only one, Councillor Anon as well. We did have these funny little private messages from Q where he would just push us in the right direction if we were getting a bit stuck. So, yeah.
Okay.
That is the truth.
Yeah, I think that covers it. And then the last question I have, like we've been noticing, there's been this problem with B and her account on Twitter over the last few days and some other questions. I noticed something that happened. Now, again, during the DEF CON thing, basically B and Q said, that both of them together, that we were interpreting the DEF CON thing incorrectly. And I've been involved in nuclear, chemical accident, incident control, all of that stuff to do with nuclear and chemicals. And I know you don't give a DEF CON 1 unless the launch is imminent, not 5 days before, not 4 days. That's at a different level. So we had a disagreement at that point, but I was willing to back off because I wanted the Q mission to go forward. But then I noticed that attack I was just talking about where you can't ask questions and still be part of the discussion. And then B posted, and I was going to bring it up, but I have no way to show it. She brought up a tweet just before she disappeared saying that myself, she actually mentioned my name and some other names. We're figuring they were Jack Posobiec, Mike Cernovich, and some others, that we were going to be outed for being deep state actors. When I saw that, I knew that this thing was going to start ramping up beyond control, because that's uncalled for. First of all, it's a lie. And if B is, in fact, in the White House, which at least this one, I doubt very seriously, nobody who looks into my records will believe that I am a deep state actor in any way, shape, or form. I can't answer for Jack Posobiec and Mike Cernovich, but their fruits don't show that they're deep state. And I think there were a couple of other names that were mentioned there too. What I'm alluding to is this. I think that the B account was also hacked and infiltrated, and I believe that the people that are now attacking people like myself, Montegraph, Tracy Beans, Jack Posobiec, and Mike Cernovich, actually hacked this account, took it over, because the conduct of the accusations by this new B are the same types and of the same nature of the accusations that are being made by this group of 3 or 4 people that are attacking those people like me on Twitter and on YouTube. My question is, how would they have taken over this B account? And if that's the case, what do we do to protect ourselves from it?
Well, don't know, Roy. I agree with you that I think these accounts have been taken over. I'm not sure how. Look, people are careless. Just to go back to the Fango quickly and use them as an example. He did a live stream where he had the background of his Gmail open. Somebody mailed me a screenshot of that because I have a lot of contacts in all these communities. And I was able to read the subject lines of all his Gmails. Now, there was a couple of interesting pieces in there, but let's just say that, you can't be too careful when it comes to operational security. Twitter, we know that Twitter, the president's Twitter was taken down by the CIA briefly for about 11 minutes on November the 3rd, I think. And there was somebody was planted within Twitter who did it. And it was to trace President Trump wherever he went. And it was discovered and it was reinstated. So I think there's definitely bad guys with intelligence level access or intelligence agencies behind the scenes, very much helping the people who are making all the accusations. Not all of it. I mean, a lot of this is just envy and the normal infighting that happens in communities and other communities. And the reason it all happens is we want the truth. We all want to know what's going on. So I think there's very much an aspect of there are powerful people involved here. We know that. The CIA knocked us off 4chan with their supercomputers, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Hugh confirmed that for us in the end of November. He said the hammer, Snow White took us out. So we know that the bad guys and the state agencies with their own agendas and intelligence work is full of egos. So, and the big thing is, I know something you don't. That is what drives this whole thing. And there are going to be people who do know real information, who are going to be helping, and they're going to have useful idiots fronting for them. And they're going to be agencies who are going to be working for themselves and doing their own work. I mean, these guys work at a very high level. And we're just, people like you and I are just volunteers. We're all doing this in our spare time. We just want to know the truth. And we're kind of trying to pierce the veil and see what's happening behind the scenes. It's very difficult to determine exactly how and why. But to answer your question eventually, I would, just don't trust anybody. Don't trust anybody. Don't trust me. Everything that I've said on this live stream, go check it out for yourself. You must check it out.
Thank you so much, Baruch. I appreciate that summation. You've spent almost an hour on the phone now, so I better let you go so that I know you wanted to use another method to call in, and you were kind enough to go ahead and use the regular system. But I so much appreciate what you've done. I will try to summarize some of this up. I'm also waiting for another person to contact me to take this to another level. So you might not want to leave the broadcast yet. You might want to hang on. Is there any last bit of information you would like to tell us about, or a summation, or something that you haven't covered that you'd like to?
Well, I would just summarize what I said by, I have proved beyond a reasonable doubt that this is not the same queue as it was last year. Whether it is good guys who who've decided, no, the mission needs to continue, and they're helping out the team that cracked Q's password, or whether it's something else entirely, doesn't matter. It is not the same queue. So I would just urge people to be cautious. But again, you've still got the whole queue map there. Read to your friends. Tell them about Soros. Tell them about the Rothschilds. Tell them about Saudi Arabia. Tell them about North Korea. This whole thing where the sister of Kim Jong-un is being touted by the mainstream media, that is very significant. That tells me, actually, that I think war is coming. That the mainstream media have got orders to have got orders to put a human face to the North Koreans. I think there must be something big going on behind the scenes. So just keep your eyes open and be skeptical. don't be a cult-like follower, like you were saying. I think yesterday on your stream, you said, don't be a cult member. Don't question. I think I agree with streamers like AFEW, All Seeing Eye Watcher. I think he had it right. He said, question, man, just check it out. I mean, if the photographs from China are stupid, say so. Don't just go along with the herd. Otherwise, you're falling into exactly the same trap that got us into this whole mess in the first place. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye now, and I will follow you along on YouTube.
Thank you so much, Baruch. We very much appreciate your help this morning, and have a good day, my friend.
My pleasure. You too, sir. Talk soon.
Okay, let me turn down the volume on the mic so I don't over-modulate. As you can see, I'm very, very low tech, and I still run into great difficulties with this. This morning was a nightmare. It was nuts what was going on. A lot of that you may not understand the importance of what Baruch was saying. Now, I've been in contact with Baruch actually for some time. I think it was actually back in December when we first had our first contact. And so he's not somebody I haven't worked with quite a bit. And I'll just leave it at that. There were some questions as, how do we know that he's not a black hat? Well, like I said, we really don't. But we look at the fruits. We look at what's happening. We judge we weigh it. And my feeling is, you may come to a different conclusion, but my feeling is that Baruch is upfront and honest. So we'll take that from there. But I think the most wise thing that he said was, use your head. Don't use Q as your only source of information or the only thing that you're doing to try to keep yourself abreast of things. And I've said this before. I've actually talked about people like the American Investigative Media, with Betsy and Thomas Paine, and a lot of others. The information that the current Q is putting out, and in some cases even the old one, a lot of that information, with the exception of the authentication codes and the go orders, were things that you could get out of open source. You really could if you just dug far enough. And Betsy and Thomas proved that of American Investigative Media. Their acronym is AIM, and I've talked about them before. And there are others. Abel Danger. Field McConnell is like me. He's kind of long-winded and verbose, but the information is always good. And he even talks about a huge multinational corporation called Serco that is behind a lot of this, and they probably had a lot to do with the Las Vegas massacre. That may have been a big betting game on how many people could be killed. And it may have been that it was a multifaceted operation by the IC and bad hats, black hats, not just to try to assassinate particular people and to cause a mass casualty situation, but also and basically the opening shots of the Saudi civil war. But it was also a betting deal on how many people would die, and there were big amounts of money that were being used on that. So the important thing is don't have tunnel vision. Don't look down and depend on any one source. We've talked, most of us here that are taking part in this, we know not to depend on the mainstream media for our information. You still have to pay attention to them once in a while so you see where they're coming from, so you can add it into the mix. But you have other sources, whether it's InfoWars or whether it's the Corbett Report or AIM or, me or whatever. I probably shouldn't include myself in that. The point is that you've got to go to these other sources. You can't have tunnel vision. If you depend only on Q to make your decisions and to become what, as Baruch pointed out, and I have too, you don't want to become a cult member. Okay, you don't want to do that. And you could be a cult member of ABC or CNN. Don't we see that on the left? People on the left have this tunnel vision, or cult members of CNN. It's no different if you do it with Q. And the real Q would not want you to do that. President Trump would not want you to do that. So I think it's very important that we take that into consideration. Bottom line in all of this, as I said a long time ago, and yet I keep getting roped back into it, I don't use Q at all. And especially when I see the kinds of attacks that have come from the current Q, they remind me of immature junior high school kids who are real good at tech, and probably are, as I've said in some of my other videos, that they are being fed intelligence information by real people, but it's not enough. It's not enough control, and in fact, they might be black hats, because all intelligence will give you 99 truths to lie to you on the one big lie. Okay, so I'm done with it. Hopefully, this is the last time I ever discuss it. I don't want to hear that Roy Potter is against Q and against Trump. Q and Trump are not the same thing. Ever. Not even when the original Q was active. Even at that point, I was concerned about watch the real world. Get the information, but watch the real world. Q is a faceless anon. Okay? Trump is real. And even the early Q said that. Keep your eye on Trump. I agree 100%. I never want to hear anybody, I mean, I'm going to hear it anyway, but I'm here to say it. Don't ever again accuse me of being a member of the deep state. It's been 30-something, that's been longer than that. You know, it's amazing how fast time goes by. It's been a long time I've been at this, at least since the late 70s. My first testifying as an Army officer against a senior officer was when I was a first lieutenant, over a false flag, basically is what it was. And I've been at it ever since then. So, you know, and those are the types of things you don't find when you go into Roy's records. You got to understand, the records are very broad. Okay, I saw somebody yesterday who was raising questions. Well, yeah, Roy got his promotions only because, you know, he was just there. And I sent out a tweet and I said, hey, officers get their promotion a little differently. It's the same, very similar to the enlisted, but in the officer corps, it's almost always. Actually, I should put it another way. It's almost never by some stupendously great act. 99% of the time, it's time in service and time in grade. And people who have been in the military know that. You people that haven't been, or who listen to CIA-backed character assassination organizations, don't understand that. The organizations do, but they're not going to be very forthright in explaining those things. And no, you don't find out everything about what somebody's done by pulling up, you know, their records. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. All right. I hated to go down that road about the possibility of other people being involved in the Q LARP, because there is the real Q and there's the Q LARP, and it's been mixed. Do not put all of your eggs in one basket. Okay. Now there's some other information coming out, and let's see if I can see if he's on here. Or you can call in. If you're listening, I'm not sure that you'd be listening. I think you were on here earlier. You're free to call in too now if you want. I don't know if the information, I can't check it. Just so this individual understands what I'm talking about, he and I were discussing of me bringing this up on another computer. There's something really weird going on with my service. I'm surprised I've been able to stay on here as much as I have this morning. But if that individual feels like he wants to call in, I think we should probably invite him to do that. I don't know if he will, though. Let's see if he's gonna. Let's see if I'm still working here. I may have just lost everything. No, it's still working. By golly. Okay. Let me look at a couple of these and just see if there's any information here that I need to go through. All right. Oh, no, answer any questions. Could be. Let's not. I don't think we should get into a question, you know, because it's not going to be productive of asking who Q is or who B is. That's not going to be productive. We need to take it as adults and take the information, weigh it, and use it accordingly, just like you would with CNN or anything else at this point. As Baruch explained, and as I have pointed out, the lack of authentication codes and go orders and stringers in the new queue is indicative that there is something there that's not quite right. Okay, there's really very little reason to be using that platform if it's not going that way. Now you could say, well, red pilling the population. There are actually, at this point in time, in my opinion, better ways to do that. No, Baruch is not a Muslim, and he's not a Jew. He took that information. A lot of us aren't Jews that study the Bible. Baruch the scribe was Jeremiah's personal scribe. Okay, and it's just the fact that, you know, it's somebody who, if you understand how scribes worked in the Old Testament, they had to be exact. Okay, you couldn't even, you've heard of a jot or a tittle. You know, Jesus said, not one jot, not one tittle of the law shall pass until all are fulfilled. A scribe has to be so exact that they can't even miss a jot or a tittle, these little tiny marks on the letters. So the point that Baruch is making by this handle that he goes by is that he's meticulous, that he crosses his I's and he he crosses his T's and dots his I's. Okay, that's what he is suggesting. So to attack somebody, and I see this all the time, it is so aggravating. It shows the lack of intelligence and understanding and tolerance amongst people. And I'm actually embarrassed when I see you embarrass yourself on here, you know, because you don't know. You assume you know, and you know what that means. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me, and we see you on here when you do stuff like that. Add constructively. You know, stop tearing people down. And if you can't stop that, you know, don't come around. Okay. Well, I don't see this individual. It looks like he's not going to call in, and we've been at this now for an hour and a half. Don't think that this information this morning was superfluous. I still haven't expanded out on it because I don't want to negate, minimize this next information that's about to drop. The whole purpose of the Baruch interview this morning was to set the stage, really, for what's coming next. Okay? And if what I think is coming next is coming down the pike, we all better, you know, watch our butts. Okay? All of us. So I guess we'll leave it there. Let me see if there are any particular questions I can answer here. Okay, I don't see anything, and I've held you all over this morning for quite a bit anyway, because I was, like I said, I was having some problems. I knew I would have problems this morning in the transmission, so I needed to get early start. 7:30 though is probably always the time in the morning I'll do these, when I do them in the morning. In the evenings, who knows? You know, those are spontaneous too, impromptu, and I don't have a schedule. I don't have to fund an organization. I don't have to fund, you know, paychecks and, you know, lights and, you know, equipment and all that. I'm very footloose and fancy free. That has its advantages, but for you it's a disadvantage because you never know really when I'm going to be here. But I will try to remember to give you that information if even you want it anymore. You know. Okay. What's coming down the pike? I can't give you that information right now. I've been asked not to. It's likely to be posted sometime today, and it's I can't even tell you exactly what it's about. Other than that, some of these intelligence operations that have been going on have duped a lot of us, and I kind of alluded to that this morning when I first started. That those who I thought I could trust. I mean, it was crazy. After this information came out last night and these communications that I had, and like I said, I was suspicious of everything at that point. If flying by the seat of your pants isn't fun, I don't have an organization protecting me. You know, if I was in the CIA or the DIA or FBI or whatever, you know, they're going to protect the institution. And so the people that work for it, even when they do nefarious things, they're pretty much protected. Whether they should be or not is not the issue. The point is they have an apparatus in place that shields them. People like me do not. So ask yourself, why am I doing this? You know, I don't have that apparatus. I have to do everything myself. And so I have to fly by the seat of my pants. And it is not easy. It's actually difficult, even with all the experience I have. So when this information breaks today, I can't trust Roy anymore. You think that hurts my feelings? You guys are so funny. I don't even know you, and you really don't even know me. You know, I'm going to call it the way I see it. If you don't like that, go listen to somebody else. You don't understand. I don't need to do this. Do you understand that? I don't need to. I've got places to go and people's that's true, people's to see. Reminds me of a junior high school thing. But anyway, so when this information breaks today, and I'm sure it's going to because they told me that it would, I'll probably come live on to discuss it again. It's very serious, and it has to do with all that's going on the Twitter accounts right now, some things that are happening on the YouTube. And I know I'm being vague, but I'm just respecting the request for confidentiality until they get ready to load this information. And it's going to be devastating. Oh, I wanted to point out, Monty posted a thing on B last night that he busted her. And boy, I'll tell you what, people just don't see the forest for the trees. And I'm not going to get into a lot of information here. But, you know, you're trying to look so deep, you miss the message, okay? And the message is why the assaults on individuals. If you're who you say you are, if you're that high up in the government, you don't need to take little people and fry their asses over false accusations, number one, okay? That's unacceptable. As an Army officer, as a police officer, even as a parent and all that, I would never, ever do that. If somebody needs to be called out, first of all, you should know something about their character, okay? And all the people that were attacked by B that day are all good people. She could have contacted them directly and said, like she did with me after the DEF CON 1, look, this is this, well, that B, I don't know about the current one. Look, Roy, this is the situation. They didn't admit that they made a mistake, which they did. Nobody out of the military really understands the significance of that mistake on DEF CON 1, but that's old information. That's water under the bridge. The point is that we had a communication, okay? And she could have said, look, this is the way it is, just tone down a little bit. And that's kind of what happened, okay? And I was willing to do that. I'm not now. Not when she's attacking 4 or 5 people in one tweet saying that we're deep state actors and that we're going to be outed. I know who's doing this. I know who it is. Because similarities in techniques, language, timing tell you bunches. And that's what's coming out this afternoon, more than likely. Okay? With digital proof, more than likely. Okay? And it's disappointing that people will go this far down this road. So, at any rate, I guess I'll leave it there for now. And if this thing breaks, we'll come back and inform you on that. Let me look one more time because I don't want to stop here if he's trying to reach me, although he has my phone number, so he could call in. So it's probably at another point here where we're going to have a break. So we've been at this for 1 hour and 8 minutes. I'm sorry. No, that's not right. We've been at this for 98 minutes. So I'm going to let you go. Thank you for coming. Do not underestimate the importance of the information that came out today. We're being subtle because we don't want to insult your intelligence, but you have to have a warning. You have to be warned that you cannot trust anything right now. You've got to fly by the seat of your pants, just like I am. Do not have tunnel vision. Do not accept one source information. If you really want to know what's going on in the world, dig deep, okay? Not just the puzzles that are presented to you to keep you, and I've said this before, to keep you framed in a certain barriers that then you don't know what's going on your flanks. Okay? You need to be aware of your 360 degrees of security around you. You need to know all of that. And those in the military know what I'm talking about. Okay. Address the supporters. That's very wise. Thank you. Thank you all. And don't think that I need supporters. I appreciate honest people who deal openly and directly. Who is my supporter? Though you don't have to agree with me to be my supporter. You just have to act respectfully. You have to have an argument that is, reasonable and logical, that you have good points. My supporters are those who will do what it takes to get to the truth, not to suppress it. So, if you want the truth, we're going to disagree. That's good. We need to have that discussion. We need to have that conversation. We need to have that analysis. If any one person thinks they've got it all figured out, that's the person we don't need to listen to, right? So all of you who don't fall in the category of you're the know-it-all, you're my supporter, and I'm yours. Okay? Okay. Guys, okay, we're going to go. God bless all of you. God bless the Second American Revolution. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. God bless Donald Trump in all of his righteous endeavors. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground, and we'll see you a little later. You know how the shutdown works. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it isn't. So we'll see. Say goodbye, and I might be lingering here as the whole thing shuts down. Look for me later today. I might be back up in the not too far distant future. Out here.